Good morning, Soul Sisters, and welcome to another Women Wellness Wednesday. I am super excited to have Jillian here with me today. She's going to be jumping on in a moment. She helped me, actually, here she is right now, and then I'll do the introduction. Getting her to join. One moment. Hi, Jillian.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I'm so excited that you're here. As I was just about to say to the viewers, it's because, well, you definitely helped me with my journey in my night eating disorder. My hypnotherapist actually found your video on
Oh,
YouTube. Yeah,
thanks.
over a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I got your
Yay.
ebook, and so yeah, you definitely were a big part of my healing journey.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, and maybe you could relate to this, but when I was in the middle of it all, you feel like you're so alone. And me finding your video, I was like, wow, I'm not the only person out there. Because at, 2 o'clock in the morning, when you're stuffing your face beside the fridge, you really feel like you're alone.
Very,
And
very.
yeah, it was just like, it was good to hear that. And since then, as I talk about it more, I realize like how common it is. Even with men, I've met someone recently in the gym. Uh, he actually gets up and gets in his vehicle to
Wow.
go get food. And I was like, wow. And he said his sister has it too. So
Oh,
yeah, there's definitely probably quite a few people out there.
I think it's fascinating when you do talk about it, and that's what I noticed when I finally opened up about it. It was like the amount of people and everyone, there's this level of shame to it because it's at night, right? And it's not normal, whatever normal means. So yeah, all these people are like, oh my goodness, me too. So that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, there's a lot of people like you. Don't worry, you're not in this alone.
Yeah. So no, I agree with you. And so you and I have quite a bit in common, I feel like. History of bikini competitions, two Canadians here in California.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think with me, part of my shame was getting up to eat at night doesn't fit that perfect bikini prep, bikini body image thing. So that's what I was so ashamed of. Like people, even though I haven't competed in a year, people still kind of see that identity with me. And so I hid it until actually last week was the first time I spoke of it on social media.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you. Thank you. So I would love just for you to give a little intro about like your story, and then we could go in and just talk and see about how it impacts women's health, and just share that we aren't alone, whether it's night eating disorder or binge eating. It kind of all comes together.
Yeah, such an important conversation. I'm so honored to be here and share this with your platform too. So yeah, I'm a health coach and personal trainer, and my history with night eating disorder or night eating syndrome, they're called both interchangeably, but mine started as a result of my eating disorder. So many moons ago, um, and anorexia. So I was severely under eating. And then in my recovery, it started to come up. So it was a result of under eating, which it is for many people. And I struggled with this for, I want to say like 15 years about. So for those of you who don't know, night eating syndrome is when you get up in the night and you literally feel like you need to eat to sleep. So it's not this like, oh, I'm kind of hungry, like, oh, little craving. Like a lot of people come to me like, every professional I see says just don't eat. And they're like, like
It's
it's
not that easy.
it's not easy. Like I think it's a very similar brain chemistry to addiction and binge eating, especially, where you literally feel zero control. So
Mhm.
it is. So for those of you who haven't experienced it, like just imagine this feeling that is like so intense, and you're like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're like, I need to eat to go back to sleep. So generally, I think the official definition is you're getting the majority of your calories in the night, but I really attribute it to that need too. So even when people are in recovery and you're, maybe just getting up and having a snack and you're eating some calories during the day, I think that's still night eating syndrome in the sense that like you have that need to eat to go back to sleep. So I had this, for about 15 years. Even when I was well recovered, I put on healthy weight. You know, I was doing my best to do every health cure on the planet. You know, I saw several nutritionists, so many experts. And again, I just got this kind of like, well, just go back to sleep. And you're like, oh,
If it was only that easy, right?
only. And then, yeah, like you, I competed. So like I would kind of have a handle on it, you know, and like handle, like I still had that thing where I'd get up and often eat like 2 protein bars was my thing for a while. It's like I ate those and I went back to sleep. So it was like manageable. And when I'm like bulking, you know, I can handle those calories in the night. And then I'd go into a cut. And for those of you who haven't competed, it's like you go pretty low calorie and it's not a long time for most. You know, I think like my extremes of my cuts were only like the last 4 weeks, I want to say. It was like before that, it's gradually bring it down. But when you're getting up and eating in the night and then you're like, well, shit, I got like 800 calories left to eat in the day. It is so frustrating. And yeah, like you said, you're kind of like put on this pedestal of trying to be this like ultra human being and slay it in the gym and cut your calories and start to lose fat so you can pop those muscles. And it's this whole process. And then when you have this thing where you're getting up in the night eating, so you wake up, not only are you like, well, now I can hardly eat today, your gym performance suffers, you're nauseous, and it's this vicious cycle. And this is what it is for so many people, competitors or not. It's like you wake up, you're nauseous, you have all this shame, and the cycle repeats. And so it's like this whole shame, you know, horrible, horrible cycle that I lived for so long. And I know you have too, and so many have. And for me, it was actually only like last year, like I progressively improved over the years. And you know, I did the mental work, I did hypnotherapy, I did all these things, and I saw improvements, but it always lingered. And
Yeah.
then last year, after my last show, I was like, enough. Like for one, I'm not competing again because it's a recipe for disaster. I could tell my hormones were all over the place. My cortisol was all over the place. Like many people who suffer with night eating syndrome, like, you know, A-type personality, perfectionist, like always working, always proving themselves, you know, this like, I feel like it's such a common thing. So my cortisol levels, of course, were like, pew.
And then you're not sleeping. And so
like, more coffee, like, oh, like.
And then your blood sugar is like,
Yeah, so often we're doing this in the day and then we're not eating enough in the day, so it's all out of whack. So I finally committed to like a full healing. And this is so scary for so many people, but I was like, hey, cutting back on the intense workouts. Like for a long time, I walked and did like 15-minute lifting sessions, you know, saw some naturopaths, really looked into my blood sugar, like took this full whole health, whole body, whole mind approach, did the hypnotherapy, like committed on every level. And that's what, like, I finally got this thing where like, oh, I'm not even just like getting up and resisting the urge, like I'm sleeping like a baby at night. And I never thought that day would come. Like, unbelievable. So that led in quarantine. I was like, okay, I'm writing the damn book. I'm putting more information out there. And I'm still working on getting out there more because it's so needed. So excited to be here and share this story and talk with you. So that's it in a nutshell.
no, and that's amazing. And I can totally relate in like so many ways, like with the whole bikini prep, like my last show that I did last year. Yeah, I did the entire prep waking up every single night. And I didn't even tell my coach.
Yeah.
So
And
if she were to hear this right now, she'd probably be like blown away. But yeah, and it's like, and then I would know it. So like you say, it's like you're just completely out of control at night. But then in the morning, I knew what I ate.
yeah.
And I would like put it into my macros. And then I'd
Oh
be
yeah.
like, oh fuck, I can't eat like breakfast. So, but you know what? And like you, I did the hypnotherapy, I did Reiki, I would do journaling, and yeah, those things would help a little bit. But you know what ended up like being the kicker for me? So I'm working with a coach right now to, with my coaching business, but with working on business stuff, he has us working on personal stuff. So one of the very first things he had me do was, he says, in order to elevate, you need to separate. So I had to give something up for 90 days. And yes, I could have gave up coffee, but I was like, no, I need to give up the thing that I know is like holding me back so much. And I was so scared. So I gave up. I was like, night eating. I told him about it. I gave
Oh.
it up. And if I got up to eat, then I have extensions in, which I've had in for 5 years. I have to take them out. And I was so scared. But you know what? That was enough. I put a sign on my fridge and it says, Kim, you are free of night eating. And there was temptation. I would wake up and I would like want to, but now like kind of you're saying, like I sleep like a baby and I want to do like a happy dance every morning when I wake up.
It feels so good. Like when you've been through it, you feel like that day will never come. And I love that that's how you dealt with it, because that's really, I talk a lot about the book Brain Over Binge, and that's
Mhm.
really tackling the brain behavior. So like when we create a habit, like we hardwire that habit in our brain. Like I just imagine these like, like we're connecting the dots. And so we get up and that like primal animal brain is like, eat. But we have the power for that frontal cortex, like the decision-making part of our brain, to go, hey, actually, no. And to actually get rid of that wiring, we have to do it long enough. So like 90 days is amazing, set a good goal. And you can rewire your brain to create a different habit.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like we're in control, but we have this feeling of a total loss of control. So it looks like you kind of mastered that. And I love that you kind of gave yourself this ultimatum and you had that accountability factor to be like, I don't want to hear about research.
Yeah. And like, well, there's two coaches and then kind of like a team of us. So I'm like, I gotta tell everybody if I woke up, oh, you got a compliment here. You're the most beautiful girl I've ever seen.
Thank you.
So as a health coach right now, are you working with a few women that are struggling with this right now?
Men and women. Yeah. Like you said, it's across the board. So I do one-on-one coaching, which has been so fascinating. Actually, when I had a lot of time, again, in the early days of COVID, I was doing a lot of like free 15-minute phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
And that was super cool too, because I ended up like hearing so many people's stories. I also follow a ton of pages and like I'm constantly researching and learning because there are some differences across the board. Most people, it stems from under eating in some form of another. So, and that ranges from like, bikini competitors, former eating disorders, but also athletes who just weren't eating enough.
Yeah.
Like some people who had like a surgery and they couldn't like chew. So they were having, smoothies and they weren't getting enough calories in. So it really ranges. Sometimes there's like a previous addiction, like they cut out smoking or drinking and it kind of replaced it.
Mm-hmm.
So often there's either this strong link of under eating, and occasionally there's some sort of trauma or some sort of mental thing going on, and it's like a new coping mechanism.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of asked you that. So how mine started was, and I'm very open about speaking about this now, is I was sexually assaulted when I was 8. And it was about 2.5 years ago. It's kind of random how it all started, but I literally got hit by a car, physically got hit by a car. I felt so disconnected from my body. I was like, it brought in my sexual assault trauma. And I was like, it's time for me to deal with this. And I finally told my parents.
Wow.
And that's when I first started seeing the hypnotherapist. But through that, my coping mechanism was getting up to eat at night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was literally waking up for comfort.
Yeah.
The food was my comfort. And it was this one session, she brought me so deep, brought me back to my past. And as she counted me out, you've done it before, they're like 10, 9, 8. All of a sudden the voice came in my head and was like, you need to go eat.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this was like in the middle of the day. And I was like, holy shit, this is like what is happening. But then from the restrictive dieting, that just exacerbated it and made it worse.
Yeah.
And like you, I've been doing some research and stuff like that. So it seems like those are kind of, addictions, traumas, restrictive dieting are like the things that kind of bring this behavior up at night.
Yeah, and I love that you say that, because I really do believe we need to take a whole health, whole mind, body approach. Like we're so trained in our culture to be like, I want that one thing that fixes it. I want that one supplement, that one, little tip. And it is work, and I think I had a lot of underlying stuff too. And I don't know if without therapy if without a lot of the like shadow work I've done, like in really seeing like, yeah, that feeling that comes up too. Like there was a craving for comfort. And I always say to people, I'm like, there is no better meal or snack than in the middle of the night. Like it's like people who've binging before, like it's a really intense satisfaction.
Yeah.
And like you might even miss it. Like you won't miss the habit of it, but for those, I think it's like if you've, been a drug addict, had some kind of addiction, like to have such a like strong numbing, it's an intense, like, false comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not real, and you don't get to deal with the underlying emotions. You don't get to meet yourself fully. And of course, this habit, as we know, like has so many negative implications physically, but also mentally.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And kind of like you said, this false numbing, it's like, and I tried things like when I would get up, like to try to do a meditation in the middle of the night. I slept with a body pillow, and it is just trying to find those things that will take you away from that, like wanting to get up.
But I think the key, and like you've just done, and I found this with even just like I used to have a habit to like overeat or overdrink, like a lot of coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to sit with discomfort
Yeah.
is the most undervalued thing in the world. And like, of course, it's so uncomfortable. Like I still, a lot of nights, even after dinner, like I'll have that urge to keep eating, even when I'm satisfied and full. And I'm like, just sit with that feeling. And it's uncomfortable and then it passes. It's not that scary, but we have this fear of meeting ourselves and sitting with that. And sometimes it means just sitting and I'll be like, okay, I'm lonely. Why am I lonely? Well, I'm not connecting to my husband who's sitting watching TV. So I go and hug him and I go and cuddle him. And I'm like, oh, but we avoid feeling these feelings and meeting ourselves when like the reality of it, it's generally not as scary as we think it is.
Yeah. And that's so important what you're saying. And I think with COVID and stuff, it's kind of forcing people to have to really sit with what is really going on. Like I've had clients say like all this shit's coming up because I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you don't have like these external things influencing you, so you need to sit with those feelings. And I think when you can do that, that's when there's so much transformation that can happen. Like you can eat all the kale you want and find that right amount of exercise, but when you can really sit with yourself in that discomfort, then that's when, whether it's getting up at night to eat or whatever else you're working through, that's when these big changes start to happen.
Yeah. Have you ever read Janine Roth's books?
No, I haven't.
So she has amazing books about overeating, and it's that same mentality. And she uses the word God, and I would say God's whatever you want it to be, if it's a traditional sense, or the universe. But she's like, when you sit in the discomfort, she talks about overeating. When you sit in that discomfort, you meet God or you meet yourself.
Mm.
I've never forgotten that, and I truly feel that, like when we just can kind of lean in versus do this or numb, which is again like it's just almost encouraged in our culture, whether it's online shopping or drinking or overeating. Like we sell this quite beautifully, but the real beauty is like, oh, okay, I'm feeling all these things, I'm human, like I have some stuff from the past, I'm gonna meet it, I'm lonely, I'm scared, I'm this, and all these feelings right now are coming up for all of us. Like go there. Yeah. And if there is trauma or you're scared to go there, definitely go there with a therapist, go there with someone who can help you. But I think it's such a undersold practice of like lean in.
Yeah. And it's really just giving yourself permission. And if you have a cry or whatever comes up, just let it be there. Yeah. I know I had a few tears along the journey, and sometimes it just comes up out of nowhere and you're like, oh, where did that come from? But when after you have that cry or that release, you're like, holy shit, I feel like a new person.
I've heard that even like physiologically, there's something that happens when you cry that actually helps. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like, I think it can help lower your cortisol or whatever it is. But like that, it is a cleansing act on every level.
Yes. I have read something about that too. And like I said, I can't remember the exact like hormonal impact it has, but there's definitely some very good benefits to it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
what, sorry, go.
sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I'm curious on your input on the hormonal impact of night eating as well.
So, with myself personally, there had to have been some type of impact. I didn't go for testing. I'm assuming my cortisol was completely out of whack and my blood sugars just from just waking up in the morning, feeling bloated, having that morning fog. Like those are kind of all symptoms of that. Personally, my actual big hormonal issues were just from too much stress in my life, just too much going on during my first prep for my first show. So I stopped getting my period for 7 months.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and it was before I actually did my cut. I was still probably
Oh,
it was probably about when I was about 19% body fat still. But I was prepping for my show. I was working full time as an occupational therapist. I was doing contract work as an occupational therapist. I was studying yoga therapy. I was teaching yoga. And I think it was just too much. Even though I enjoyed doing all this stuff, it was just still too much. And that's where I like preach so much about that now. It's just, we can I could do and I did 4 other shows after, and I was successful not losing my period, but I had to take things off my plate. We can't be, superwoman and put 100% into everything at all moments. So it's like deciding what is important at this time, give a little more attention to that, and then just pull back on something else. And what you're pulling back on doesn't have to be forever, but just for that time. And it's kind of a dance, and as you become more aware of what you need, that's where it takes sitting with yourself for a while. It becomes easier and you realize what's more important. So one thing that I do just to kind of start my day is to have a success list. Instead of a to-do list, I do a success list. And so that, then you're focused on what needs to be accomplished for that day. And like, for example, right now, like I'm building my business. So going to the gym doesn't need to be on that success list. It's more like things that are going to get me further in my business right now. I put those 3 to 5 things on my success list. So that was more of my hormonal stuff. Um, that really impacted me. There's not a huge thing. Like I'm very happy that there wasn't more hormonal stuff that went on with me with actual night eating.
yeah. Yeah, a big one for me that made so much sense was the impact on my blood sugar. So that was the one thing, I did all the generic tests and I know that they only show a tiny little snapshot. And two things that popped out were thyroid was a little low. So
Mm-hmm.
again, stress in the thyroid totally makes sense. But a big one was my blood sugar was almost pre-diabetic. And
Oh,
I
wow.
was doing the finger pricks in the morning. And like the fascinating thing, and this is totally a diet culture thing that I hate, is everyone was like, but you're super healthy. Like there's no way you're pre-diabetic. And I'm like, that comes in all shapes and sizes. And there's so many variables too. Like, yeah, I could eat healthy, but I had years of night eating syndrome under my belt competing. And like you said, so much stress. And
Yeah.
stress affects your blood sugar. So it's all connected and we forget that. So that was a big thing. I was like, okay, that's something I can work on. Like, and I just went deep dive into blood sugar research, learning how to manage that, learning how to supplement for that, change my diet for that. And that's like a huge, huge thing. And I think you probably see that in hormonal health. Like I always try and simplify the mass research. And I'm like, oh, like anyone who gets a menstrual cycle needs to be balancing their blood sugar regularly.
Yeah. That's actually like kind of the precursor to having hormonal issues and like PMS problems and losing your period or it being irregular is your blood sugar, and women don't realize it. And actually, I kind of just did a bit of a post on this, like some big, I guess if you want to say symptoms or red flags to look out for are like, are you hangry between your breakfast and lunch in the morning? Do you hit that, like, or that brain fog or that afternoon crash? Do you need your glass of wine before you go to bed to unwind? Like a lot of women do that, and maybe men, they go for a beer or something. And then that slot 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning, do you get up and you can't fall back asleep? Like those are all signs of blood sugar imbalances. And I think we just tend to think that's normal and we just brush it aside. But those are signs that we need to be listening to. And maybe you have more to add to that.
Yeah, yeah. And I love one of the best things I heard that just clicked with me was that your sleep is an accumulation of the day before. So if you're not balancing your blood sugar in the day, yeah, you're going to have issues at night. If you're not eating enough in the day, you're going to have issues at night. Like your sleep will tell you a lot about how you're doing in the day. And what I see, like you said, so common. I think most women I've worked with across the board, and I blame, like, there's so much information about diets and all this out there that people are so overwhelmed that in the day they're like, they don't know what to eat, so they don't.
Yeah.
So it's like this, like, grab a coffee, grab a little snack, but like they're scared to overeat. They're scared to eat too high carb. They're scared to eat too high fat. Like there's this like fear and confusion around food. And then they get home, they're exhausted, they're stressed out. So yeah, glass of wine, bag of chips while you're cooking dinner, big heavy dinner, another glass of wine. Let's get into the chocolate. I need something for me. And like, I'm all for snacks and chocolate and wine, but like, that's not enough for your body. That's not enough to nourish those beautiful hormones. Like we need that regular, like we don't want to be doing this in the day. We want to like keep this steady blood sugar balance. And that means generally like 3 meals and 2 snacks. Of course, everyone's a little different. I find people outside of their cyclical years do better with fasting. I go on and off, like fasting in the morning sometimes feels really good. When it doesn't, I'll eat an earlier breakfast. In that eating disorder recovery, though, I say breakfast is key. Like you gotta build that habit, especially in the early days. Like get a nice hearty breakfast in first thing, no matter what.
Yeah. And with the breakfast thing, not going for like pancakes or bagels. I was also working with a women's health coach, Dr. Jessica Drummond. I'm not sure if you've heard of her. But like I always think of her saying like make your dinner your breakfast, meaning make sure you have some protein and some healthy fats. I feel like especially women are so afraid of fats, but we need it. Like it is
Oh,
so important for our hormone health and to keep us satisfied, and it's going to prevent those binges and those hangry moments. So, instead of having that bagel, have an omelet. I'm vegan, so maybe a tofu scramble or something with some vegetables, but in your breakfast instead of just carb loading.
yeah. And for those who, if anyone who watches this has struggled with night eating and they're waking up and they're nauseous and they don't want to eat, one thing I think is handy is make a big green smoothie. Another, again, good vegan option, some plant protein, healthy fats, add your flax, hemp seeds, nut butter, like all that good stuff. Sip it through the morning. Like, so it's not as harsh on your stomach, because I know that feeling when you've eaten and you get up and you're like, oh. And I would say first thing, press the mental reset button. Like no shame. Totally fine. You need to eat enough today. And then carry on. Get your green smoothie in, get your little snack, nuts and all those healthy fats. Seeds are great. And think about with every meal, like we're saying, the blood sugar balancing is key. So if you're having like an apple, add some peanut butter, If you're having like anything higher carb, just throw in that protein or fat. So we're getting this nice blood sugar balance throughout the day.
Yeah. Those are great tips. You like took them right out of my head.
We're connected.
Yes, yes. And actually, one thing I was going to say about the blood sugar, that when you were saying how, people are really surprised when you said you were pre-diabetic. What a lot of people don't realize is what they give you from the doctor's office, like where the, high and low is. If you're on the edge of that, you are already like, what's the word I want to say? Like, you're already having issues to your body. I think those markers should be a lot wider.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed too. Like a lot of traditional doctors would say you're not pre-diabetic, but a lot of the like more natural health books and hormonal health books I was reading were like, oh yeah, based off of these numbers, you are. And like, I just instinctually, I was like, my body is screaming that something's wrong. Like I'm waking up in the night starving. Like there's something off. So I just trusted that. And I was also having a lot of symptoms like frequent urination, which is a thing a lot of diabetics have.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I had any kind of sugar, even like fake sugars, I would pee like 300 times. And my whole life, people were like, are you like, what's going on? Like, you should get tested for that. And as soon as I balanced my blood sugar and dealt with that, it was normalized.
Wow.
So lots of different symptoms. Yeah. And I always think like, medicine's great, doctors are great, but if you instinctually know something's wrong, you have to trust that. Like our instinct and our gut is so important. And there's, doctors are taught a lot and a lot of general information, but especially those with menstrual cycles, there's complexities that are very, very understudied. And you kind of have to go a little bit deeper or work with someone who has.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. And it's more than just taking, I mean, this could be a whole other conversation, but taking hormone pills or birth control, because that's just masking the problem of what's really going on. So whatever your body's telling you, you actually need to get to the root cause. Because if you take those hormone pills, that birth control, it's just going to put you on a flat line. But as soon as you go off it, you're going to, you're going to start going on a roller coaster again.
Yeah.
So like you said, like that's where it comes in, and just taking a holistic approach to addressing what's going on.
Yeah, and using that menstrual cycle, because it will give you loud and clear signals when something's off. Like really, really bad PMS, which I had, isn't normal. That's telling you that something's off that you can work on.
Yeah. And it's funny, or I shouldn't say funny, but society has made it seem like it's normal for us to have PMS, but it's really not. And yet they say about 70% of women have PMS issues, which is significant.
And it's, I mean, I'm always like, it's such a big chunk of your life. Like this is every month, guys. Like we shouldn't be suffering for a week every month. Like that's a lot. We got stuff to do.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for some women. I think I'm very lucky, but I guess because I take care of myself, like I don't have PMS issues. Maybe the odd time I'll get a breakout, but then I'm like, what was I eating?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Um, but other than that, like I don't have issues, but I know some women that can't go to work every like one day a month, or like they don't want to go out, on a Friday night because of it. And I feel for them, but I don't want those issues.
No, after my last show, mine were horrendous. Like so bad, so bloated, so moody, so irritable, like so much pain. And then in this like healing process I've been going through, it just every month is better. And like it's so funny. My husband's like, "Oh my God, you talk so much about your period." Uh, I'm like, oh my God, this one like actually slept through the night. I don't feel that bad. Like I still feel kind of cute. Like I'm constantly like taking notes, because often too, if it takes 3 months to see the changes that you've made take place, you have to be so patient with anything hormonal and period wise. So like, and you can notice certain things immediately. Like I find alcohol, like especially wine, can really throw things off. So if you like drink a little too much wine before your period, or too much dairy even, like those can actually have pretty
Mhm.
quick repercussions. But generally it's like your period's going to tell you about the work you've been doing in like the past 3 months.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they call it the fifth vital sign now for us females.
I love that. I
Yeah,
love.
yeah. And even you're saying dairy, I feel like gluten's another thing too. If you pull that out, you
Yeah.
can notice changes. And I also like that you bring attention that it takes time, like 3 months. I think that's where some people get a little frustrated, because you could go to the doctor. Actually, I can use my mom for an example of this. She was like having arthritic pain, and I was like, hey, mom, cut this, and this out. She cut it out for 2 weeks, and she goes, I didn't notice anything. I'm like, no, 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 no. You need to cut it out for like 2 months. Like with a medication, yeah, you'll notice it in 2 weeks, maybe even quicker. But when you're doing natural stuff, it's gonna take some time. I mean, it could take up to 6 months.
Oh yeah. So my kind of health or recovery balance hormone balancing journey started probably last September. And I'm like really reaping the benefits now. And what's great, actually had a concussion.
I
And
saw that.
yeah, in that there's not enough research. I'll try not to get too into this because it's another big conversation, but there's very little research on how it impacts hormones, but there are some. And like some things started coming back, and I was like, I just had to like lay my cards down and be like, hormone balancing is a journey. Because I was at a point where like everything was improving. I was like really feeling like my hormonal best, and it kind of threw off a couple things. And I was like, you know what? That's life, and I'm committed to feeling good for life. And I think that's something we have to always drill home. Again, it's like the work is never ending.
Yeah.
but like take it with grace.
Yeah, it becomes a lifestyle, right? And you're going to have times that you fall off, and that's okay. I think you got to give yourself permission for that and forgive yourself. But then you got to just get back on the bike and continue on with that lifestyle. If you don't mind me asking, you said some things came back. So just like that attempt to like get up to eat at night, or
Not that as much with the night eating, but I'll touch upon something about that. But I noticed just irritability, more sensitivity to like sugar and dairy. Like my body was really at this point where it was kind of like I couldn't have a glass of alcohol or any kind of sugar without feeling horrible for months. And then just recently, like I could have a drink or two and wake up and feel fine. Like on my birthday, I went out and had like 2 drinks, and the next day I felt amazing. And like that was unheard of before because things were so off. My liver wasn't detoxifying properly. All these things were kind of big signals. And then recently, like I did notice, yeah, some more blood sugar imbalancing, some little signs, you know, and I'm so overly in tune with my body that I was like, oh, I'm a little irritable, like, oh, I'm a little more bloated, like so little things, but nothing like before. Like the work I've done has definitely paid off. But along those lines, I do want to say that around my period, and I see this with so many clients, right before your period, you actually have more blood sugar balancing issues. And that is actually when my night eating will sometimes pop up. So I'll usually have a night before my period. And I often just embrace it. Like if it does happen, I'll just have a snack and go back to bed, and then I'll reset the next day, and it's like just that one night, and it's totally fine. But I have successfully before like increased my calories that week. You know, PMS week, your luteal phase, you are actually your body naturally burns more calories, usually like
yeah.
1 to 100. So the weeks I'm really smart about it, and I'll like boost my calories, like boost my healthy fats and fiber. So I'm like really on my game, balancing my blood sugar. That won't happen. And that's something really cool to think about.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up because that is very important to just notice that as you go into your menstruation part and you're in the luteal phase, that yeah, your calories do go up, or that you're burning more, so you could have more calories.
And most people don't honor that, and that's why it's like, oh my god, I want chips, I want chocolate, and you know, and this kind of overdoing it happens. Where if you actually just go, okay, I'm burning more, and you increase those complex carbs, you increase those healthy fats, you'll actually usually find those cravings kind of go away, and it's like, oh, I just needed a little extra something.
Yeah, and even just like, having things like sweet potato, it's still like a carb and it has like that little bit of a sweetness that's going to satisfy you a little bit more instead of going for a whole chocolate bar.
Totally. Have some chocolate because good magnesium, you know, we need a
Yeah.
little something, but
Yeah. Um, so do you have any last advice or anything that you want to share with anyone that may be listening?
yeah, so if anyone is struggling with night eating in particular, I always go over my main points. So in your recovery process, number one, make sure you're eating enough in the day. We really need to switch that caloric intake into the daytime so that your body and mind know that you're okay at night. Um, Number two, obviously look for any hormonal imbalances, work with a professional on that, look for those clear telltale signs. And then do the brain work too. And that can be, you know, like we've said, working on underlying trauma, also doing that rewiring. So I have my clients do journaling to reaffirm that, you know, I'm free of night eating, I release night eating, all this stuff in the positive tense. When we say it negatively, like I'm not going to night eat again, our brain doesn't fully register it. So I'm free of night eating, you know. And big thing, like you're not alone. No shame needed. Every day if it does happen, press that reset button. Give yourself the nourishment it needs during the day, and trust the course. And if I can help, please reach out to me. I've successfully worked with many people now, and it's such an honor. And I have a ton of free content on YouTube, on my Instagram feed. So check those out, and you can also check out my book.
Yes, I highly recommend it all because I've read the book, I watched her YouTube, and that's why I invited Jillian here because I knew this would be a great conversation.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for having me and for
You're
sharing
so
your
welcome.
personal story with this.
Yes,
Very,
thank you. Thank you for holding that space. And if I make it up to Monterey again, I was there for my birthday last year. I would love to connect.
yeah,
So I'll be in touch and let you know if I make it up there. I know right now with COVID things are a little
next
but
2021, hopefully.
yes, hopefully soon.
Well, thank
All
you so
right.
much for having me.
Yes, thank you again and have a wonderful Wednesday.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
everyone.